Sam.
Take it away, Sam.
Take it away, buddy. Welcome back to the cast.
Are we supposed to like sing our introductions?
Yeah. Today we've got a founders cast. We've got Niko and Sam and Jake.
It's like a moody Spanish podcast that we're about to launch into. It's like, have I ever told you the story about Lord, I don't know,
Clementine of Naples,
and his 1,000-year-old winery? And the one time the Spanish Inquisition came to his place and asked if he had supplied the wine for the Catholic Church, and he was like, I don't appreciate the Catholic Church. And then they put him in an Iron Maiden, and that's how the band Iron Maiden was formed.
That's it. That's it right there.
That's it right there.
That's actually the singer of Iron Maiden is a seventh great grandchild of that man.
It's actually a Swedish folk song.
Don Hernandez.
Sam, can you play me something really like heavy real quick?
Wait, that's a Swedish folk song?
Yeah, technically that's a Swedish folk song.
Wow. I guess all European music sounds the same. I guess that's what we've heard. All right. Stop the presses, Skorsky. That's enough.
Something heavier. Shut up.
Can you keep the guitar in hand for like funny little accents when a good joke is made?
Yeah.
No.
So they can make it like a bad pun.
No more jokes. I know.
Yeah, no laughing in this podcast.
No laughing, guys, because today we're talking about some pretty laughable subjects at times. You just never know what's going to happen next. When is the algorithm going to be perfected by all of humanity?
Arguably, human nature is the algorithm, man.
See that? Okay, yeah. So this is what we want to get into today. Humans created robots, right? And as part of our creation of robots, like or eventual creation of robots, I don't know if we have or have not yet at this time. It doesn't matter. The point is that in order to create a robot, you need algorithms. You need algorithms within the software within that robot to make it function. Now we have all kinds of different relative robots in our lives. We're using Zoom right now, which is in and of itself a robot whose job is to record group video from you know what Zoom's job is. So anyways, does humanity manifest the results of these algorithms, or do they manifest themselves?
Yeah, the question is like, does an algorithm manifest the humanity, or is it just serving the greater purpose, and we would have manifested things like that anyways? Like,
right.
But real quick, before we get into that, I want to give a shout out. So there was on the Today I Learned subreddit, the Mary Poppins thing that we had posted on Corridor Crew became like the fact of the day, or wasn't, whatever, got voted to the top. And I saw like a bunch of comments like, hey, you watch Corridor Crew. Everybody must watch Corridor Crew. And I saw something like, I knew this was coming a week beforehand because I'm a Truton. And I'm like, heck yeah, Trutons. I'm giving you a shout out to whoever that was that said you're a Truton in the subreddit on Today I Learned on that post.
That's nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good bit.
Yeah. So anyways, this whole like algorithm thing, like, so I was on a one-wheel ride and I was talking to Dean actually. And, we're talking about how like, social media very much influences how we talk to each other. Maybe if you don't use it very much, it doesn't influence you, but there's a huge chunk of people that do use it frequently and it influences how they talk to each other. But even then it's becoming something where it's like, when we consume media at this point, all the media companies are kind of building AIs to serve you more of what you like, or that's the idea, but it's not always it's not always as nice to you as you want it to be. Sometimes it's more about getting you to stay on the page longer or getting you to watch more minutes. So it's not about giving you the best experience for your entertainment. It's about, these other things that they're sometimes serving.
Yeah.
But, these algorithms, for example, like, the Google's ad algorithm influences the kind of articles that are written, then, that can influence, and that then dictates the narrative of history that of your modern history. all because of how the ad algorithm is playing and what plays for clicks and all that kind of stuff. Now, to be fair, this story is as old as time. You know, getting headlines, sensationalist headlines that grab your attention wasn't something that was invented 2 years ago. And,
Right.
The internet was a thing. I mean, that stuff's been around forever. But
4 years ago.
4 years ago, when the internet was invented 4 years ago. But this stuff influences people, not necessarily for the better, not always for the worse either. But it's definitely shaping things. And the question is, everybody says like, oh, the algorithm is shaping people. The algorithm changes what people see, et cetera, et cetera. But is the algorithm not just an extension of human nature? Like, is the algorithm not just us humans having our own internal algorithms, which have existed for thousands and thousands of years? Is it not just that now being put into computer form? Like we seek out things, we seek out confirmation bias, we seek out things that we want to, that back up what we've already see and believe and things like that. And like, we don't need a computer to do that. It's something that's just naturally a part of us. And the computers are just doing the same thing, but it's making it more efficient. It's a robot. It's a robot to help you just have, indulge in your human nature more.
Actually, that's kind of funny. Actually, the latest Kurzgesagt video is pretty interesting, and I was watching it the other day because it's basically talked about different classes of civilizations or different types. Where it's like you have primitive, you have like Earth, planet dominating ones, you have solar system dominating ones, you have galaxy dominating ones, and then so you have those different types of tiers. And then I
believe we're 0.4 right now, by the way.
What in 0.4 what?
Our Star Citizen level is 0.4.
but sorry, just minor distraction there. What was I going to say?
They have solar levels of civilization.
But basically it was boiling down to like the qualities though that find that kind of growth though. And it's, it talks about the idea of like competitiveness, a little bit of greediness, and like a little bit of, I forgot what, they boiled it down really well into like these 4 like driving traits of like a civilization that grows basically. Mm-hmm. But like it's like these algorithms kind of embody that though, and like that's what they are, rooted at their nature though. It's like a little capitalist, so to speak, for lack of a better word.
Do you think that at major like deep learning type environments they have they must have a meeting where everyone who's working in these at the highest level sits there and is like, okay, what are some of the attributes, the human attributes that we want to use to like term how this thing is at the end of the day? And they must use words like, okay, it's a little bit competitive, it's compassionate, it's it wants to propel innovation, it wants to be efficient at delivering information, because how else would you do it? I don't know how else you would do it.
Yeah, let me boil down the qualities. I found them. It's curious, competitive, greedy for resources, and expansionist. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, on the onset, there's a lot of like bad connotations that are associated with some of that. Greedy for resources, expansionist, competitive. But at the same time, you look at a lot of these algorithms that are generated, and like, they might serve one purpose, but ultimately they kind of fulfill all those.
Yeah.
Because they're all about like, the idea of like making the most efficient net possible that hooks people who are in it, and also hooks and like brings them closer in, and then also hooks new people.
Yeah. The thing that I've been wondering is whether or not that efficiency, at least at the pace at which it is currently operating, is actually a good thing or not. Niko, we were having a conversation just earlier today about Twitter, and we were like, hey, we were talking about the merits of the Corridor Digital Twitter account and whether or not it's something, we want to do X, Y, or Z with. But in that conversation, we were talking about, hey, is this a good platform right now? And obviously there's both of those are true. Is it good? Is it bad? Both of that's true right now. It depends on who you are. It depends on who you are. Depends on what you look at on Twitter. It depends on how it affects you as an individual. It depends what you do. But obviously there is we cannot disavow, we must recognize there's a heightened efficiency when it comes to your ability to find like information and to internalize it and to spread it, whether or not it's actually real information. I think one of the most telling things, this didn't happen on Twitter, but it happened on social media. I mean, one of the most telling things about some big topical stuff that's been going on is, Sam, you directed me to watch All Gas, No Brakes. I went on that channel and I watched a couple of his videos, two in particular, the Minneapolis riots and the Portland protests. And after watching both of those videos, you can see in there's a truth of information that is really only succinctly presented in that video. It's like, we all know there's people that say this at those protests. We all know there's people that say that about them. We all know that there's these like different types of people out there who are responding to this like social issue in different ways. But this video puts them all together and is like, yeah, here it is. Here it is in a bottle, like, boom, this is all you need to know about this. And it's very like, boom, eye-opening. And so the efficiency of that is like a miracle of modern, technology. But at the same time, if he had some sort of like, mission or what have you, if he had some sort of information that he wanted to spread in a way that wasn't necessarily just truth seeking, he could very easily do that too. He could very easily do that too. And you'd consume it and you'd be like, oh, that's it. And so in order to vet like all this information, you have to, you got to go to social media, you got to go to traditional media, you got to try to read both sides. You got to go through all this information, because you just can never rely on like necessarily one of these algorithms, because quite frankly, you can't trust any one particular one. I mean, we've all had the experience of watching one YouTube video and then having our entire feed filled with that stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, like, the conversation gets dominated. Like back in the day, this is something I think, kids these days are going to have to deal with. And, I'm not the first person to say this by any means, but back in the day, we had a common cultural touchstone, usually when it came to the media. There's ABC, there's CBS, there's
Walter
NBC.
Cronkite, the most trusted man in America.
Dateline, NBC, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And so when the media, when Dateline or any, of those like, big news network shows had an important news story and they, shared it with you, millions of people saw it at the same time because it was broadcast at the same time to all the houses, et cetera. And it became a shared cultural thing where it's like, okay, this is a big deal for America right now because millions of us saw the news broadcast where they said it's a big deal. But now we don't have that anymore. Like, I don't know who the number one Billboard singer is because honestly, I don't even consider Billboard charts number one anymore. Like, everybody's broken down into little demographics and you can be entirely within your bubble and you can know of nothing that is occurring outside of that bubble. And in a way, it is a good reminder of like, hey, step out your door and look around you and start with that. Start with what you take in with your own eyeballs. If the news is telling you that the world is burning and you look outside and everybody's happy, and you go downtown and everybody's happy, you drive around and everybody's happy, then maybe the world's not burning, Yeah. But at the same time, the other thing that I kind of realized is like, it's kind of like we live in a post-truth society thing is like, we also live in a world with like almost 8 billion people now. At any point in time, anything is happening. At any point in time, you can find a cop being shitty. At any point in time, you can find a cop being good because they are both happening simultaneously all the time. Because when you're rolling the dice 8 billion times every day, you're going to find an example of anything you want to find.
Of course.
And you no longer have a central authority saying this one is important, this one isn't. And everybody gets to find what's important to them for better or for worse. And it's kind of weird. And you kind of see this floundering that happens kind of like as human beings where like we need that the pinnacle, you know, like what's supposed to be important? Like for a brief moment, it was like the Black Lives Matter movement. Everybody's like, racism is bad. We can all get behind that. And it's like, yeah, we can get behind that. Racism is bad. And then it's like, cool. But in practice, what does that mean? Do you change police funding? Do you change the laws? Do you change representation in media? And it just becomes a big mess, you know, obviously, because everybody has a different idea of how to address that. But, you know, it's like, as human beings, like those are things that we still kind of had that cultural touchstone where most of us have had the upbringing where it's like, yeah, racism is bad. We all agree upon that. You know, it's like very few of us have had an upbringing where we would think otherwise.
Right.
But like the fact that like we have to go that far to find something where everybody can agree upon it, like just shows you how fractured everybody's become with the internet being able to connect people and the niche things they enjoy to the niche servers of that content that those people enjoy.
I mean, we're going pretty deep here, and it does bring up a deeper question, like the question of objective truth, and even less so the question of like even just moral truth and whether or not, you know, I think. So we're in an interesting point because I recognize everything that you're saying. These are all things that are happening right now, but there's another side to this, and it's easy to hear all the things you just said and go, oh, you know, what the hell, you know, what's going on, and to sort of get a sense of anxiety over it, but also humanity hasn't changed. You know, we may have changed our ideas of certain X, Y, and Z, but in terms of the thing that I'm always reminding myself, and I think, you know, we're all in our mid 30s now, right? Like, but by the time you get to this age, one thing I didn't realize when I was younger is like, okay, nobody in history, no other person, no other human being in history has had any different, at a fundamental level, any different of a brain or body than I have. Like if you were to take all of it and put it all on a map, and you know, it's not like we look at like, you know, other forms of relatively intelligent creatures like dolphins or you know, high-brained apes, and we say like, okay, that particular one did everything for that species. you know, we look at them and we're like, apes, you know, and then obviously we identify within like certain chimpanzee and bonobo like groups, they have hierarchies, and there's a lot of animals that have hierarchies, but like day to day, across a lifetime, across 8 billion lifetimes, across all the lifetimes that have ever been Homo sapiens on the planet, your brain and your body are literally the same as everybody else's. So how do you accommodate for like that, which is telling you, okay, there's like ancient truths inherent to humanity that have been passed down through our biology for longer than we have any concept of how long it's been. And those things manifest themselves within us as desires, as, you know, like,
yeah, like if I stomp on your foot, you'll get mad at me.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate that. I know 100
years and do it.
You were so eloquent, Jake. You're very eloquent there, but I'm kind of curious what your point was actually.
So my point is like I was getting to my point, but my point is like there's a shifting idea of like, well, it's my truth. There's always a tendency right now, especially I feel like for people to want to say, well, this is my truth and no one can take my truth away from me, which I understand, but I don't necessarily agree with, because when you forget, if we just sort of arrogantly like shuffle off and set aside all the history of our own evolution that I'm talking about, then I think we're at risk of like missing something important about ourselves and about how we take some of these problems, like how you take information and present a monocultural like touchstone and move forward.
I agree, but you know, I think it can be also summed up with the idea though that, you know, especially in a world right now where there's where all perspectives on a certain subject are amplified to the maximum, so to speak. Everything from the large voices to tiny voices. I think the problem that ends up actually creating more than anything else is a confusion from an execution standpoint, because I think you can prove almost any fact right now, to be honest. Like, if you make a bold statement, anything from like a scandal with the president to like a class of people who have felt a certain injustice, I think you can prove points that hold truth that support both, or any opinion kind of surrounding it.
How is that though?
Okay. How is that? Well, I think it's a matter of just, we're living in a world where, because we get all those perspectives, we can find truths in almost like there's enough of these situations and voices now being contributed to all opinions that you can find truth in at least some of these voices, like certain people's experiences or certain people's, actions or whatever. So, just to bring up two like really simple examples, we recently saw, all right, there's like anti-racism demonstrations, Black Lives Matter. There's a big talk about police brutality and what that means. And there's many cases that support the truth that there are egregious uses of police brutality. And then there's also statistical facts that, maybe you look big picture and it seems to diminish those opinions, but they're both inherently true, that like maybe it's a problem here, it's not a problem on this scale or whatever. But the point is that both voices are still technically correct.
You can tell somebody that police brutality isn't a problem as much as you want, but if the cop shot that person's dad,
you're right.
At the end of the day, he's like, I don't care.
It's
My dad's dead because they were shot by the cops.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. And what that leads to, though, is I think this issue that Niko was talking about with the idea of like, all right, what do you do now? And like, so what can you do about that? And I think that's the big issue right now, which is like, you have these situations where an execution on a decision that affects millions of, or if not billions of people, basically, that's where things get much less, I guess, I don't know, forgiving in a way, or like much less compassionate in a way, because like now you're starting to deal with like, all right, well, from a statistical standpoint, if I do a tweak over here, what's the ripple effect through time? Even though it might solve, issue A in the present, it causes issue B in the future. And I think that's the main thing right now, is that because of that huge amount of voices, it's more difficult than ever to be able to actually have a concrete execution on a concept or an idea, because I guess it's harder to sift through these truths to find that direction.
Yeah.
Well, let's go with that for as an example for just a minute and see if this goes anywhere. But to take the police brutality against African Americans example, you have, right, the actual amount of brutality being committed by white officers against Black individuals in terms of how many deaths that is to the Black community is like incredibly low.
It's technically small when compared to the general population.
Right. But looking at it as examples, let's take our most egregious examples. Well, those are also, you're right, those are also true. So if you're responsible for coming up with like YouTube's algorithmic approach to this, do you go for something in the middle? Do you like pair it with like opposite information? Do you like...
Well, it's like you kind of have to. And in fact, that's an issue I've been finding here. Like the other day, I had to kind of like step back and go like, man, what are these YouTube channels and podcasts that I'm listening to? It's like, they're all like really angry. And I feel like they're all starting to like, they say they're liberal, but then they talk and they lean really conservative or like really libertarian on stuff. And it's like, it's like, I do generally agree with a lot of these statements, but then it starts to get to this point where you're like, okay, hold on. Like I'm falling into that echo chamber.
Yeah.
But like, is that just like the state of the online like commentary when it comes to like these podcasts and YouTube? Like, or are they is that style of YouTube channel? Like I'm talking about like the, I mean, Joe Rogan is, I guess, the catch-all example, because a lot of the people he features are in that like left libertarian area. There's a lot of conservatives for sure on there, but like,
yeah,
I feel like, I don't know, everyone complains about cancel culture and the social justice warrior thing a lot and the left leaning stuff, but like, I actually have been struggling to find, maybe it's just me, but I'm struggling to find like the solid opposing viewpoints to a lot of this stuff that I hear.
Like cancel culture.
I don't know if that's, well, yeah, but well, I mean, maybe not specifically that, but you know, it's what like the softer version of that, the more reasonable.
Yeah, okay.
Where it's like these people are still wrong, and here's some more productive approaches for this.
Yeah,
but like, I just can't tell if that's the algorithm that's propping it up like internet wide, or if that's just because there's like a lack of those strong voices. You know, I don't know.
I mean, it's got to be a little bit of both. At the end of the day, like if you end up creating something that's undefinable to the algorithm, it's not going to get shown people. Like the only way that'll get out there is if people share it. But then again, like people only share what they know, and they only share what they like. So how are you going to get, it's like medicine that tastes bad. How are you going to get that to people if they don't want to eat it? It's
so
like people need to read.
Let's talk about that. Like, say you come up with a new approach to presenting information, or say that you come up with a new strategy on some form of like social or political issue, and the algorithm, now you say it doesn't know where to put it. It might not get views, which is certainly true, but how did it come up with those in the first place? So it clearly came up with like, okay, here's what I do with this information, and here's what I do with this information. Here's what I do with red cars. Here's what I do with green cars. X, Y, and Z, off of some information that some human being was like putting into it.
But then you deliver a blue motorcycle, and it's like, what do I do with that? Who do I show that to? I'm not going to show it to anybody.
But what if enough, like, I guess it's like enough people have to show it blue motorcycles in order for it to get enough information to like say, oh, blue motorcycles is a category now.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, it has to learn, and it can't, just like the thing that makes an AI different than a person. And this isn't true for everything. I'm generalizing here, but it's kind of weird that I have to say that all the time now. It's always disclaimer. I'm generalizing. Like, yeah. Okay. Anyways, the thing is like,
wait. Why don't we just call this podcast I'm Generalizing? Well, it's the new name. New name.
But AI is good at taking something and basing it off of something it already knows. What people are good at, and AI is not good at, is taking something that you've never seen before, hypothesizing what you might want to do with it, and then trying it. And, obviously you can kind of roughly program that, from a very vague sense in a computer. But like, I could play a song for Sam with a style and a vibe that he's never heard before, and he can listen to it like, yeah, it's good, or no, it's not good. Like people still know, they can feel those things. You can use your imagination to imagine what those things would be like. We have to do it all the time when we're writing movies and videos, because we don't always follow the formula. Sometimes we're trying something fresh. And so we have to literally imagine from scratch if this would be cool and visualize it and try it. And a computer can't quite work that way very easily, because a computer needs data to base a decision off of, whereas human beings, we actually don't always need data. We can sometimes just go for it.
So do you think that, oh, sorry, were you
no go ask the question.
So do you think that because that's obviously, I mean, that's obvious, I think, what you just said. So do you think that's grounds to say, well, hey, maybe there's room for like a human curator?
Well, I definitely think so. And that's kind of one of the things that like I've been waiting to see take off, is like a human curated site for something, whether it's like news, entertainment, or something. And you kind of have that in places, but I think the reality is that humans, like when you're curating it, you're not doing it to give people the best indulgent. You're not like, you could have a restaurant.
It's your vegetables. It's the
vegetables, man.
Yeah.
It's like, if you didn't curate it, it'd just all be chocolate, right? If you didn't want to curate things at a restaurant, it'd just all be chocolate. But, chocolate and potato chips and French fries.
They'll kill you eventually.
Yeah. And sometimes you get some really cool things when somebody's curating it, but there's a reason why there's a McDonald's in every corner.
So do you think that, yeah, well, that kind of answers the question that I'm about to ask, actually. Do you think though that like there is no way that there could be an economic model to support that type of like cohabitive, like algorithmic, but also human-based like presentation of information?
No, honestly, no. But I think everybody's doing their best and kind of splitting the difference at the end of the day. Like everybody hates on YouTube, but but I gotta give them props. Like they could be so much worse. They could be so much worse, and they're active. Yeah. Like they are so active in trying to fix a problem. Maybe they don't always fix it the right way. Maybe they always,
they definitely don't always fix it the right way. They definitely have their own like
agenda, of course,
viewpoint of the universe and the way that the world should be. But they do. You're right. They are active about it more so than almost any other. I can't name another social media platform that is more active about it. And maybe that's just because we're on YouTube more, but
no, YouTube is the only one that's actually truly active about trying to not make the world a shitty place. And a lot of people would argue they are, but you know what? Cool. Great. Make that argument, but at least they're doing something and actually striving to make the world a better place is within the boundaries of, running a business and making money.
Within the boundaries of how many ads they can sell. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But another big thing I noticed, and this is kind of circling back to what Sam was saying when he's trying to look for, some other things. So for example, I'm trying to remember the exact event. Something happened. It might have been the Beirut explosion or it might have been something else, but there's some sort of event. I just wanted to go and find the sequence of events, like who has done the research, just be like, I'm not going to spin this is not an opinion piece. It's not a clickbait thing. It's just at 10 a.m. this happened. At 10:15 a.m. this happened. At 10:30 a.m. this happened. Just the facts, right? I just want the facts, ma'am. And I couldn't find anything because none that never gets clicks. No one cares about that stuff. Everybody wants to spin on it. So to actually go and find the facts so I could come out with my own conclusion on what happened was almost impossible on either side of the spectrum. I don't think this is the Beirut explosion now that I think back on it. This is something else. It might have been... Wow. I can't remember exactly what it is. It almost doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, because I've had the same experience, and I can.
It brings me back to history class, and you might remember this term like primary source versus secondary source. A primary source is someone who was there and wrote it down, and then you're reading their spin on things. Now, to be fair, you're still filtering it through a person. You've already gone through one telephone in your game of telephone, but a secondary source is somebody citing somebody. And these days, everything is secondary sources, or arguably it's tertiary, quad, whatever. It's like it goes way down the line. Like, and the funny thing is, like when you finally dig down, and you can find a primary source. You often discover how much bullshit people are weaving into it, because very often, like these primary sources are very vague. And like, that's it. That's all the information you get. And like these narratives that people spin out from it, like it's all so much conjecture.
And there's all this pressure to have a story about everything and to have an angle on every story,
Yeah. That's kind of how human beings work. We need good guys and bad guys. And that's kind of the other thing that I've realized is that we have a weird perspective here at Corridor because we're in kind of big media. We don't really consider ourselves big media, but like at the same time, we got millions of subscribers, so we're kind of big media, So we're in this weird like in between where it's like we're still pretty normal people. We're not screwed up by having like millions and millions of eyeballs upon us at all facets of our life. Yeah. But like when I read about somebody in the news or something like that, I see them as a person. I can imagine them not on set. I can see like who they are when they're not on camera, But I think for most people, the common man, they're characters. They don't see them as real people. Like the real people are the people that you're interacting with in your day to day as you go to work and that kind of stuff. And, whatever this big celebrity is off in Los Angeles that has this one scandal that erupts, like they're just a character. They're just another facet in the news. They're not a real person. And so like a lot of the way people approach talking about other people now on social media, they treat those other people as if they're characters, as if they're just
I've noticed that a lot.
Story. Yeah.
And the thing is like, I've definitely noticed that where it's like, there's Usually when people do something that people don't like, I found like a lot of the ways that it gets portrayed as like, look how stupid of a decision this person made, or like let's pull things completely out of context here. Like isn't this just like an unquestionably dumb thing for someone to do? You know, like you word it like that basically because that's your headline. And like, yeah, maybe the articles kind of supports that, but the problem is that it very rarely kind of gets into the idea that like, because people are humans that live and breathe and think, like, you know, a lot of people, even if we disagree with them, some, you know, like there's plenty of stupid people, don't get me wrong, but like sometimes when it comes to like, I don't want to get too political in this kind of stuff, but like I think the Portland protests are a really good example of this, because when federal officers, I mean, I just listened to the full testimony of the Department of Homeland Security's, like Chad Wolf, whoever he is. He's one of the guys in charge. I listened to his full Senate testimony of like everyone
primary
grilling.
Source. Good for you, Sam.
he was basically grilled by this huge committee of senators and stuff like that on what exactly happened. But, you know, when you first saw all this stuff happening there, it was like, all right, oh my gosh, it's the Gestapo. We're dealing with unmarked officers. It's crazy. This is all Trump's fault. What are they doing? This is like Hitler stuff. And like you read this stuff and you're like, oh geez, this is like really nuts. This is bad. Like why would you do that? Like why would you pretend to be the Gestapo and have like mysterious arrests and start like acting like China? You know, and it sounds really bad. And you instantly jump to, wow, people are really stupid or mean or evil, or like they're like actively trying to be bad or something like that. Because just that's the setup here. But you know, you start listening to this testimony and then he talks about it. He's like, hey, you know, like officers in Portland didn't do anything for 40 days, you know, and they're like laying siege to this building. Why was the building a target? It's like, we don't know. I think they hate Trump. But the point is that like in our like actual, like our lawful binding document, we are like obligated to stop this because there weren't any other officers. I mean, like it wasn't like a decision to go do that. It was like hey, we've been trying to talk to these guys in Portland to stop it for about 40 days. They didn't. So unfortunately, we had to basically follow our obligation to go and do this. Everyone had like identification or for like who they're working for. The reason they weren't wearing badges is because they've already had multiple officers doxxed, basically. And that's why they didn't put actual names on uniforms, you know, and you have this full list of like, all right, here's a step-by-step of why all these decisions happened and how we got here. And I'm not saying necessarily this is good or this is bad, but what I can say is that it's not like decisions that are rooted in necessarily like malice or stupidity,
evil.
You know, which I feel like that's kind of the emotional reaction a lot of people spin on things we see today. And like having whether you agree with someone or not, you know, when you read about someone doing something, it's like if headlines attribute it to like ignorance, stupidity, or malice as like the first thing, it's like you should kind of be instantly suspicious of that, because you have to imagine, what if you were in that situation,
right? And
you made a decision, and all right, well, are people going to call you stupid or malicious, you know, for it? And like, yeah, there's going to be plenty of people who do that, but ultimately, like, you know, these are functional thinking people behind most of these decisions. And I just feel like that barrier that you see is often what makes people like lose sight of bigger picture elements here.
Yeah, biggest like the biggest distinguishing factor, I feel like, that between like real people versus like the illustration of people that you get from the news is, you know, once it comes back to like that movie character thing, like when you think of a movie character, they're good or they're bad, right? You know, or you can have characters in between, but they are that thing. The character is that type. So in movies, that's how characters work. In real life, you know, once again, I'm generalizing. This doesn't apply to 100% of everybody, but in real life, everyone is good for 95 to 99% of the time and then they're evil for 1% to 5% of the time, because that's how humans work. We're not a one point in time, this is my cardboard cutout, it is me forever. Things change with time. And, you know, every once in a while I make a shitty decision, because that's how people are. You cut somebody off when you're passing, or you're angry, so you give them the finger. You didn't get any sleep last night, so you snap at somebody. But then for all the rest of the time, you're good and you try to do good things. And maybe you help out with a charity and you volunteered over here, because in real life, time progresses and you can be doing a good thing at one moment and a bad thing at another moment, and you can go back to doing good things again. Yeah. Now, people who just do shitty things all the time, yeah, those are shitty people, and you know, they fall into that evil category. But the amount of people that actually do that are very, very, very small. The vast majority of people are good for most of the time. And when you encounter that shitty person, they're just shitty for that one moment in time, and you happen to be the person that had to deal with it, you know?
Exactly.
No. I did notice in that All Gas No Brakes Portland video. So you know how everyone he was interviewing, he typically blurs their faces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, especially in those ones, because it's, you know, it's people who could be potentially identified and arrested, and also I was hearing that they had a lot of issues with release forms in some previous videos.
Yeah, of course.
People find out they look like idiots online, they're going to come after him.
Yeah, exactly. And that was apparently a huge issue.
But the thing that I noticed was he didn't do that for any of the cops. and you know, there's maybe
they have masks and stuff.
Of course, most of them, yeah. But like the implication, I think, and maybe I'm reading too far into this, but the implication is like, well, you wouldn't dox a police officer, would you? You know, but people do. And it's like, wait a minute. So,
well, it's also a thing, though, when we talk about the way police are filmed in public, it is legal to film a police officer in public.
Yeah.
Without a release form.
Right.
And unlike as opposed to a person who can turn around and actually file a strong civil case against you.
I hear you.
By the way, what a strange civil rights thing or civil like liberties thing to have to deal with from our modern time. Like, this is something that only could have possibly existed really until like the past couple of years, when everybody's finally got phones in their pocket that are also uploading in real time online, where it's like, we need to come up with a blanket rights thing. And thankfully America, you know, obviously there's cops that are still shitty and say you can't film me, but thankfully like America as a culture went the right way and said, yeah, you should be able to film cops. Like, that's something that was just invented now. Like, that's a thing that's going to echo into the future forever.
I remember being in law school when that was an issue that was starting to come up, and having cases come up, and that was the question, like whether or not that should be allowed. And
we're setting a precedent that's going to be a precedent for centuries.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah. Until everything's a holographic representation, the computers are the police.
I'll be honest though. It's like at a certain point, it's like, when do I get to have my address encrypted? You know, like I get to take the numbers off my house. The post office has an encrypted like tag, which is not even an address, but like just it's a data point. And if you want my address, I can send you the encrypted file. And you can only access a data point. Basically, if you click on it to open it in Google Maps, it alerts me, and I have to give you permission to see where that point is each time you want to use it.
Here's an
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's like in a weird way, that's actually not a terrible idea.
It's a good way to protect people that have high risk jobs and things like that. You know, high levels of the government and stuff like that. But then obviously there comes the question of abuse on that. It's a whole thing. Man, I just lost it. I had whole nother thing I wanted to add to this.
Well, I could steer it back to the algorithm if you guys want.
That was it. Okay. Do you think, just hear this one out. Maybe there's not an answer for this. But do you think that people would be a little bit nicer to everyone else and give a little bit more people the benefit of the doubt if you just went around and just assumed that person, whoever you're interacting with, lives within a quarter mile of you?
I don't know if that make people feel nicer. I feel like it bristle more, like, you know, our territorial sides that come out.
Okay, well,
I think everybody would be nicer
next door to you. Like literally,
No.
this person and I share property or share building lines or property lines.
I still don't think so, because people have neighbors they fight with all the time. I think everybody would be nicer to each other if everybody you were talking to that you're having an argument with, if you assumed that the week before their dog died. Like, how much nicer would everybody be? It's like somebody's kind of getting pissed off and you're getting pissed off, and you're like, you know what? Last week their dog died. I'm just gonna chill it out a little bit.
It's a family dog. Okay.
Well, that comes back to the whole. It comes to the whole game theory, like tit for tat kind of thing, you know, where it's like you go tit for tat when problems arise, but then you also have a nice random selection pool where each time you get a tit rather than responding with a tat, you know, it's the, I guess, the forgiveness element, you know, it's the empathy element or empathy response that you give to offset that cycle.
Yeah.
What if everyone was not a convicted violent felon and also had a concealed firearm with a permit to use it? Do you think then people would be nicer to each other?
Oh yeah, I mean, everybody, like, you've seen the things where it was like, yeah, the protests when they brought rifles, they didn't get arrested.
Only at appropriate population, only at appropriate population densities.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It means you need a low population density for something like that to work. If it's a high population density, it's too many innocent people are going to die if an actual problem breaks out.
I think it's certainly fair to a certain point. It's that roll of the dice thing. Like, once again, there's 8 billion people.
I'm sorry.
At some point, somebody's going to shoot a lot of people. Like, anything's happening anywhere. You pull
out a gun. What identifies you as the good guy? Do you have a blue siren that you also always wear? You turn on your head. That once you start shooting your lawful gun.
That's something I've been thinking about.
So not at all.
Can I hard tangent here real quick? We can bring it back real quick. It's a question for you guys.
Yeah.
All right. It's late night. It's 3 a.m. You're sleeping. Door gets kicked in. You hear a guy downstairs. You grab your pistol and you go down the stairs and you see this guy. He's got a shotgun. He turns and and you run back upstairs and he stays downstairs. So for some reason you don't shoot him, or maybe you take a couple shots, maybe you missed, maybe you didn't, but he's still downstairs. He's shooting at you. You're upstairs, and now you're sitting there upstairs, you know, at the top of the stairwell, waiting for him to come up, and you hear him downstairs and he's waiting for you to come down. Okay. Yeah. Pull out your phone and you call the cops.
Flashbang.
911. There's a guy in my house with a gun. All right. Cops show up. What keeps you from getting shot?
Nothing.
Hold on.
What keeps the cops from kicking in the door and seeing you with your pistol and be like, there's the guy with the gun? Like, how do you get through that moment? Like, let's say you even shoot the guy, right? Let's say you shoot the guy.
It's entirely circumstantial.
You describe the specific gun he's holding, make and model. You say, he has a black 1911. I have the chrome 1911.
You do whatever
that's what you do. That's how you do it. You Cerakote your firearms, you do the wildest colors, and you tell the cops very specifically, it's like, I'm the guy with the green tiger stripe M4.
Right? Sam.
With the gold silencer.
Listen,
all right?
Listen.
It's unmistakable. Do not shoot that one. I'm the good one.
Listen, first of all, what you're talking about is entirely situational. And in any situation where there's a firearm involved and you are actively shooting at another person and somebody else shows up that's an authority of any kind, you immediately at the first possible moment, you immediately identify yourself as a non-threat. You put your hands up, you put your gun down, and you say, I am not a threat. That's all you have to say. No one's gonna shoot you if you're like this in the air and you're saying, I'm not a threat.
Well, that's what one would hope, but based on the stats we've been seeing,
hold on. And that's all you are doing. Okay. And that's that has happened.
I'm just saying the true answer to this is you better freaking shoot that guy.
Now to talk about the high density thing for a second as well. I don't think you can just write off the entire concept and just say, well, it's a high density area, so how do you identify any good people? So therefore nobody can carry a firearm. I think that's exactly the same like logic that California has applied to their own.
I don't think Sam was saying you can't carry a firearm. I think he was saying
I'm just saying
it's demonstrating with like, having like 10,000 people in the street and they're all carrying guns might be a little, it's a little bit of a boiling point.
Jake, I'm being dead serious. Like, I'm a firearm owner and all, but like, even in my neighborhood, like I'm not going to whip out an AR to like defend myself because those bullets are going to fly through a wall.
No, yeah, that would be
go through another house and fly because the density is high enough.
Yeah.
But once again, like that's one element, which is density. That's the topic.
Yeah.
Each missed shot has an incredibly high likelihood of hitting the wrong person. Right. So that's one element. But then it comes from the identification standpoint. All right. It's like you say, hey, there's a guy in this crowd with a gun, or hey, there's a guy, and then now you pull out a gun, and now it's like, well, now there's two guys in the crowd with a gun.
Right.
Which one's the bad one?
If everyone has one, how is it any different than if nobody has one?
I think the question is like, how do you get out of that without, like, it's kind of like my question too.
Or hey, I'm the only guy in a crowd with a bunch of people without a gun, and I'm a bad guy. Now what?
Well, yeah, I mean, these are the basic, like,
I'm just saying. I think the density is. I think the density
I'm not
is.
trying to give you talking points. I'm just like, this is a legitimate question. Like, it's a legitimate question.
I guess I'm just wondering, if you're ever in a situation where you've had to use your gun in self-defense and you call the cops, how do you get from the point when they're driving towards your house to when they're in your house and you're cool and they're not shooting you? How do you get through that little in between there?
Like this.
Hey, here's a silhouette of a human being. Don't shoot me.
Hey, I'm the homeowner. I'm not a threat. I'm the person.
But when do you say that? When do you say that?
As soon as you're able, as soon as they're within earshot, as soon as they identify them, open up police, as soon as they come in, like at any point where by doing this, your own life is not in jeopardy.
Oof, man, that'd be scary.
It's not like,
don't shoot me. Like,
yeah. and
just hoping they hear you. And like, the other guy could shout that too.
Right. But we're human beings.
Yeah.
Like how else there isn't a perfect solution. There isn't a clean solution to any of this.
The clean solution is breach and clear. All right. So you're trapped in your house. You basically have to formulate a plan. You either have to use a wall charge on your own floor on the second story, so you can drop down to the first story, surprise them from behind, or you use the classic. You blow, you throw, you go. All right. So you're in your bedroom, you're trapped. All right. You blow, or you can kick it down. You could use a door charge, but you can kick your door down, flashbang out into the hallway.
Throw. Yeah.
Which is throw, and then you go.
Throw
just
and
saying,
go.
like
the old throw and go.
Well, I'm just saying, you're missing the first step, Jake.
Blow.
Throw.
Yeah.
But sometimes blow can be replaced with just a swift kick to the door.
Yeah. Blow being like blow it up with the charge.
I got
Not
it.
blow it down like, big bad wolf and the three little pigs.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I got it.
And in my case, what that would mean is I unlock my door, I slowly open it, I throw an airsoft popper grenade out into the hall, and then I run out with my katana.
You might want to use like a 22 like hollow point. It's not going to go through a wall. You got to be close enough to hit somebody.
You want 2 grenades.
It's generally
one
non-lethal.
Yeah, if you get shot and you're going out, you can martyr yourself, just like in Call of Duty.
You can you can martyr yourself if they get you.
Well, we started off on algorithms and we solved the Second Amendment. So good job.
Yeah, we did. Just remember, kids. It's you blow, you throw, you go. That's how you deal with home invaders.
This applies to both sides, by the way.
It applies to both sides.
Whether you're invading or outvading, it's the same.
Yeah, we want to thank our sponsor, Due Process, for this episode here. Due Process is almost available on Steam.
Yeah.
And actually, this episode's coming out on later in this week, and it's going to be the baseball line is going to be live on the store. So, So actually, I forgot.
Sorry, Due Process, new friend.
Sorry, Due Process.
Our own store.
We got a whole line of baseball merch. It's anime inspired and Japanese inspired. It's really, really cool. Jay and I worked on it from our merch people. We worked on it from February to now, and we perfected everything. and you're going to see it. It's incredible. So go on over to quarterdigital.store. And of course, if you're a site member, check in your account management feature and you'll get that 15% off promo code.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speaking of merch, do you know if that boat did we ever find the boat that has our hats on it? The boat? With our mocap, with the mocap baseball hats?
Yeah, no. So
wait. Clarify. There's a boat?
It's a ship.
There's a ship. There's a cargo ship.
Right. Yeah. The cargo. Yeah. Sorry, I thought it was like somebody like painted our logo on a boat.
They sent over all of our New Era hats on a dinghy boat.
No, but we can use a dinghy to get them using the blow, throw, go tactic. You just have to scale the side of the cargo ship, find the container, execute.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to follow up on that. Maybe they're gonna ship now.
Well, in the meantime, the baseball merch is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the fact that I have this one of a kind hat. That's like my hat.
Not for long, buddy.
Not for long. And this is also probably a great time to remind anybody listening that if you are a member of the site, you get 15% off of all merch. And if you end up putting in, I think the average order on the site, I don't know. Basically, if you end up putting in like 2 orders over the course of the year, membership basically pays for itself. So just throwing it out there for those of you guys who want to save some money by spending money.
There you go. It's like a credit card that you pay off every month.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, that's kind of cool.
It's
pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, that's pretty cool.
Quarterdigital.store. Wow. That's the URLs. Say them out loud.
Well, I'd actually love to hear your guys' experience with the algorithm. So if you can leave a comment. Any interesting stories about how your like YouTube or your Instagram homepage have changed over time?
Yeah.
That would be really interesting to see, like, especially if there's like photo examples. But that'd be a fun thing to explore at some point as well.
I agree. I'd love to read people's stories on that because it's always so like interesting seeing other people's experiences and like their thoughts on how it works.
Right. And then imagine being that person and going, okay, that's what my feed used to look like. Then it looked like that. Then it looked like that.
Just never forget there's a point in time on YouTube where you can just copy everybody's tags and title. And as long as you're a girl with cleavage, done. You're Pie Girls. There's a brief moment in time when they made a bunch of money.
And by a brief moment, like a year and a half.
and we're talking enough money to retire on.
Yeah. There was a brief moment where, yeah. Anyway.
If you ever wonder how much money Google has, there's an example.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hopping on. It was a lot of fun. And let's do it again. Niko, you're going to be gone next week, but have fun camping.
Thank you.
And
I can't wait to go out into the middle of the wilderness. I've been going on a trip every year since I was 13 years old up into the Boundary Waters. And if you tally it up, so that was, this year will be like our 22nd year. I missed last year. If you tally that out, that's 22 weeks in the woods. That's almost a half a year of my life spent in remote wilderness, like true remote wilderness. No cell phone reception, no electricity.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most beautiful part of the country, in my opinion. Not gonna lie. Like I've been to mountains, I've been, to Colorado, been up to Washington, but dude, Boundary Waters, it's the best. It's like
a special spot.
It's like even the mountains get like dry,
Yeah.
Like and like Washington. All that temperate rainforest is cool because it's all nice and moist, but it's also really cold almost all the time, And in Minnesota there, that's like that perfect balance where it's like you get all your nice moisture, a lot of lakes, a lot of clean water, great swimming, a lot of great green. But then, it's like, it's not too cold either,
Yeah.
It's not Florida either. I mean, Florida's fun, but
swamp.
It's not, you don't have to watch out for gators or snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you don't get to say that there's gators around you. I mean, there's a little bit of like, I'm like, there's a gator in the swamp. Like, it'd be kind of cool to be able to say that legitimately.
Maybe, but then you'd actually be saying that legitimately. And then you'd be like,
that's true.
There's a gator.
You're so used to it, It's like, there's a gator in the swamp. It's like, again.
Hope he doesn't have a shotgun.
Hope he doesn't have a bazooka.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, everybody who listens to this podcast, thank you so much for checking it out. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to chatting with you guys in the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Jake, Sam, good way to end the day. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you later.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you guys.